Catalyst, a person or thing that precipitates an event and triggers a vast increase in the rate of progress. Over the last 10 years, Spokane, Washington, and the Inland Empire have experienced a rate of growth that has never occurred in the past. As a native growing up in a family of developers, I have always been intrigued by our city and the people who are responsible for our growth. Up until now, there has never been a voice of progress and development. Catalyst. This is the place where you will meet all the players responsible for the growth and development of our beautiful cities and this region. This is not just another local podcast. This is the Catalyst. And I'm your host, Bruce Van Cott. All right, welcome Spokane. This is the Catalyst Podcast, episode 6, with Barry and Brooke Baker of Baker Construction. We've got a great show for you guys today. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Great.
Doing great, thanks.
Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
This could be dangerous.
Oh, I think it'll be fun. We've, as long as we've got, 50 minutes, we'll get through it.
Enough time to be dangerous.
I like it. I like your style. So let's jump right into this. I know we're a little short on time today. Barry, tell us a little bit about, so you guys have Baker Construction.
Yeah.
You guys, large contractor here in town and in multiple states.
Right. We're located in 12 states.
12 states. Wow.
Yeah.
And you guys do a lot of your own projects as well. So you development side as well on that, as far as that aspect
goes.
When
I was growing up, I saw contractors that were building wealth, and it seemed like the ones that were building wealth were doing it through development.
Absolutely.
Because construction, like real estate, runs in cycles. So you have high cycles and you make good money, and then the economy goes bad and you spend it all. So if you could develop properties, so you're developing some recurring revenue, so you have an income stream when times are bad, it really helps you when you can get through those times. So
I totally agree with you. It seems like the guys that are doing well are adding assets to their portfolio through doing their own projects. So tell us a little bit about the history of Baker Construction as far as when you started, because it was a family company prior, or did you found the company?
Yeah, no, my parents started the company in 1951.
1951.
In Swift Current, Saskatchewan.
Okay.
And they were selling real estate and insurance.
Okay.
And this is just, 5 years after World War II. So
wow.
The old Quonset huts, the old barracks that they had in the Army, they started selling those surplus.
Okay.
And that, along with their insurance and construction, or insurance and real estate business.
Wow.
And they had relatives in the States. And Wenatchee, Washington seemed like a place that they had relatives, so they moved to Wenatchee.
Okay.
So that was in the 60s, and then in 1972, they had an opportunity to buy another company here in Spokane. A friend of theirs was selling their company, so Wenatchee was heavily dependent on the fruit industry.
Yeah.
It's the apple capital of the world.
That's right.
And so if the orchardists had a good year, we had a good year, and if they had a bad year, we had a bad year. So moving to Spokane, the economy here is a lot more diverse. It's not dependent on one industry. So we came over here to diversify.
Okay.
And that was in 1972. So we've been here for 49 years now.
So was it Baker Construction in Wenatchee? Are you guys still there?
It was Baker Steel Buildings.
Okay.
Because that's where our roots were in steel buildings.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And that was pretty much the case. And then I came to work for the construction company. I got a business degree and wasn't sure that I was going to come into the company after college, but I felt a calling and felt I was needed. And my brother and I came into the construction company in 1977. And at that time, I saw that if we didn't diversify, in the wintertime, we basically locked our doors. So we said, well, we better get into some other types of construction, tenant improvement work, remodeling, stuff that you could work inside in the wintertime. So we diversified a little bit there.
Guys love being inside in the wintertime.
Yeah, it's just when the ground froze, we couldn't do anything outside. So although now we pretty much 50 years later, you have to work year round. You get a staff and you get folks. So we're a lot better equipped than we were back then. So
absolutely. Yeah. And so what today? Where are you guys at today? What type of work are you guys focused on?
Well, that's a great question. And I would say that through our 50 years in Spokane, 49 in Spokane, we've really had to diversify because in Spokane, the economy was such that you couldn't specialize just in medical or just in industrial or just in remodeling. If somebody had a job, you better be able to get out and do it. I remember I was doing about 50 cold calls a day and just looking for work. And somebody said, "Do you build depots?" And I said, "Absolutely.
We do now.
We build the best depots." I had no idea what a depot was.
What is a depot?
Well, it was actually for Sweetheart Bread Company.
Oh, okay.
And they needed locations where they would drop the bread off, and the route drivers would pick the bread up at the depot and deliver it to grocery stores. So they needed 4 locations, and I was all of about 25 years old. They needed 4 locations, and I went and I borrowed $1 million, and I didn't have $250 in my checking account. But I got the company out of Kansas City to sign leases, 10-year leases on these depots. And so we got the bank, based on the strength of the company, to loan me the money. And so we borrowed $1 million, and that was our first development.
And that was, when you say your first development, you guys owned the development, or you did the work for it? Oh, no, wow.
We went out and I took notes. I wrote offers with notes, a promissory note.
Wow.
And yeah.
So at 25, you go out, no money in your bank, nothing to your name.
Yep.
You go out there, you borrow $1 million based off of some beautiful lease contracts that you have.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
That was our first one. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So, and nowadays, it sounds like you guys are working in every sort of industry you can as far as building goes.
We really have, through the years, you had to diversify. And
Absolutely.
So, whether it's medical, whether it's general office, whether it's industrial, whether it's remodeling, whether it's tenant improvement, whether it's historic renovation, we basically have done it all. And we're proficient at it. We're not just, we're going to try it because we've never done it. We are proficient and have a library or a portfolio, if you will, of projects that we've done in, whether it's, again, we do a lot of banks, we do a lot of medical buildings, we do a lot of industrial buildings. Retail's been a good market. And somebody told me a long, long time ago, Dave Henry, who was president of Empire Healthcare, which is Deaconess now.
Okay.
But, he said, you got to look at your business just like it is a buffet. And you have hamburger, and all of a sudden people wanted hamburgers, but tomorrow they want Italian. So you take the same hamburger, and instead of making a hamburger, you make lasagna. And then the next day, people's tastes have changed, and now they want Mexican. So you take the same hamburger that you made hamburger with, and then you made lasagna with it. Now we're going to make tacos with it.
Absolutely.
So it's the same with construction. It's the same components. So you have to follow the market. And if the market is retail has gone away for right now.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
Based on COVID, and the office market has gone away. So right now there's a lot of multifamily. And so that being able to fulfill that market. So we diversified our construction company not only from a product type, but we also diversified from a regional standpoint, because we did a project for a national company in Spokane, and they said, "Gosh, you're the best contractor we've ever had. Would you go do Seattle?" So we said, "Sure." So we go to Seattle, and then they said, "Gosh, you're the best contractor we've had in Seattle. Would you go to Denver? Would you go to Houston?" And so that's what, we're not running down to Phoenix to chase markets down there. We're servicing clients and helping them fulfill their goals.
Building those relationships.
It's all about relationships.
That's something Brooke was talking about earlier. Let's jump over to you. Brooke, tell us a little bit about how you got into the business. It sounds like you kind of had the same background, going to school, not planning on working in the construction industry. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be with the company. What's your position again with the company?
Yeah, I'm basically director of pre-construction services, or fancy title for sales.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
It's an important job.
Oh yeah. So I'll kind of jump into what I'm doing for the company after my my public service announcement of my journey to Baker Construction.
I love it. Let's hear it.
It's a really interesting story. No, it's really not. But I went to Wazoo. I'm a proud Cougar.
Go Cougs.
And yes, thank you. And I actually studied business as well. So I did marketing and international business.
Okay.
And at the time, it didn't even cross my mind that I might have this opportunity to go work for Baker. And in hindsight, had I known I was going to go work for Baker and work with my dad, I wish I would have gotten a construction management degree. But that business background has really proven to be super invaluable.
Let me stop you. So that's funny you bring that up. I think about that all the time. And I talk to graduates that, or people are getting ready to go to college and deciding what to do. And to me, business is the language, right? Of everything.
Yep.
But you still have to have a specific skill.
Right. So I'm learning a lot. I mean, I still feel like, gosh, almost 8 years later, I still feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose. Wow. So after college, I actually went to work for State Farm Insurance. And that was a really great opportunity for me. I went and helped open up a scratch agency on the South Hill for State Farm, and you have an insurance background,
tough work.
So it was great. I mean, I was cold calling out of a phone book, literally, for free leads, and it taught me to be scrappy and to build rapport immediately and try to connect with people. And I love chatting with people, and I love finding their interests. So helped open up that agency, and then actually for my last 3 years at State Farm was a corporate consultant for them, and I was based out of Spokane and had about 30 offices in my territory. And basically, I helped team members with retention and acquisition studies for their books of business. And so I'd go from office to office and help them improve their customer experience and insulate their book and take care of their households. So the next step for me there was to open up some offices of my own. It would have been lucrative. I was making good money, but my heart really wasn't there. And so that's when I came and chatted with my dad and his partner Reed and his partner George at that time to say, guys, what does a transition for me look like at Baker? Is there a spot for me? What makes sense? And they're like, absolutely. It's in sales. You're going to start at the bottom. You're going to work your ass off. You're going to work your way up. I'm like, sounds great. And so that's where I'm at now. So basically my job now is to network and is to get out there and talk to people that are looking to grow and expand, and basically help kind of front load that project and look at the total project costs. The construction costs are just one component of it. But, and you know this, Bruce, but the total development costs are, there's a ton of line items that go into it. So what's the cost to buy the building or the land, add in the construction, the sales tax, and then all of the ancillary soft costs that go into developing a project. So I help them kind of track that. And then I like to kind of call myself like a concierge of sorts. And so then what I do is help them build their dream team. So do they have an attorney that's going to help them create their LLC? Do they have a good real estate broker that they're working with? Who are their lenders? And who are those people that are going to wrap their arms around them like we do for our clients and walk them, cradle to grave, through every single step of the process.
So that seems like, I mean, and maybe I'm wrong, but that seems like that's fairly unique to the better construction companies out there.
Yeah, and I think we do count that as a major competitive advantage for us.
Agreed.
That we have that development experience and that we do try to take every single client, every single project and treat it like it's our own. I mean, we'll flat out turn business away. When we help people look at total project costs and their return on their investment, we have turned business away just to say it's not in your best interest, and or they're okay with a lesser return. But sometimes until we really break it down for them, they don't know that it's not a good move.
Absolutely.
So we're really proud of that, and the relationships that we've built, and the trust and the respect, and our sterling reputation over the years of always doing the right thing will always pay off.
Yeah, so you really serve as more of an advisor to these developers and these investors that are going in and trying to decide what to do. So when did you start with Baker Construction? What year?
That would almost 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I've taken some. I need to get back into it. Taken some online construction courses because I can walk onto a job site, but I still don't know how to read the plans front to back, how to completely read the engineer's notes, all those things. I'm learning as I'm going. And we have such an amazing team and such an amazing staff that they are allowing me to do what I'm good at and I'm allowing them to do what they're good at. We're such a good team because if there's something I don't know the answer to, it's like, oh my gosh, we've got a handful of amazing project managers that are going to get you that answer. So we're stacked. I mean, just from our accounts payable, accounts receivable, our controllers, our project managers, our engineers, we've got a staff of about 65 guys and gals between office and field that are just, we are poised to be better than we've ever been.
That's exciting.
I'm jacked. Yeah.
That's exciting. I can tell. I love the passion coming through. And then, did you mention that you have kiddos that you have to go pick up?
Yes, I do.
That's exciting.
So Steve and I, my husband and I, had a daughter on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
our
wonderful.
little COVID baby.
Oh.
And her name's London Barry
Beautiful
Spink.
name. Oh,
yeah.
There you go.
Nice.
Yep. We couldn't think of a better middle name, and
That's perfect.
somebody that my husband and I love so much. So it's funny. My quick 30-second personal story is Steve, my husband, was a superintendent at Baker Construction.
Oh.
He doesn't work there anymore, but that's how we met. So I made that super fun for my dad.
I can imagine. That was a good experience.
I liked that one.
That's right.
Yeah.
I have 3 daughters, and I hope that's not foreshadowing.
Right.
Well, I think, too, an important thing for us, I was involved with Gonzaga University, and we did some family business seminars, worked with the dean of the School of Business, Bud Barnes, and we talked about,
Oh, yeah.
how
He was the dean. He was the dean when I went to school. Is he
Yeah.
still the dean there?
No, but he's still doing some teaching there, and he's just a wonderful man.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what we determined as a company was, your kids, if they're going to come into the family business, they need to go to work for somebody else for 5 years or so, because that gives them an opportunity to spread their own wings, to get their own identity. So when they come back to the company, they know that they can be successful, and it wasn't a hand-me-down,
Right. And that you bring value. Proved yourself.
Basically when she came to work, I said, you're in a losing situation either way, because if you do great, people will say, well, your dad gave it to you. And if you fail, people will say, well, your dad gave it to you and you screwed it up.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
but she's done amazing. And like she said, we've got a succession plan. And that was important for us because we have some older guys that are my age, and we have some younger people. So we talk about, we have the gamut from Leave It to Beaver to Justin Bieber.
I love it.
From one
That's great.
From one end of the spectrum all the way to the other.
Yeah.
But one of the cool thing for me is that, we're spending, at my age, I'm a rainmaker like Brooke.
Yeah.
He is
and
the
just
rainmaker.
The rain.
Spokane is
The
just
velvet hammer.
Spokane is an amazing place, and it's all about people. And I tell Brooke when I started in the business at 22 years old, I didn't know anybody. I came from Wenatchee and really didn't know anybody. But now through the years, and that's 43 years later, the people that I was working with that were salesmen and entry-level positions are now all owners of the companies and presidents of companies.
So they've grown with you.
We've grown together.
That's wonderful.
So, just about any president of most companies, I know them on a personal level because Spokane is not that big.
Yeah.
And I know, I think that's an important thing too, to our success, is that we're involved in the community and we want to give back to the community. We serve on a lot of boards through the years. I've served on many, many boards, I still serve on quite a few boards right now. But the reason I serve on those boards is because the community's been good to us, so we want to give something back to the community.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we want to make Spokane a better place to live.
Of course. And you talk about Spokane, and you guys are in, you said 12 other states. Are you in Canada still as well? Or
We still have our license in Canada, but it's inactive right now.
Okay.
Again, we chase business relationships. So we had a customer that wanted to go to Canada, so we went to Canada.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, talk to me a little bit about scaling. And it sounds like you guys have scaled quite a bit and grown quite a bit since you've been in a position running the company. Yeah. And I know I want to get to you and hear what your ideas and your plans are going forward. But tell me a little bit about, since you've been with the company, what you guys have been able to do and what it takes to scale a company and diversify like you're talking?
That's a great question. And I would say that when I started with the company, we were doing about $700,000 a year
Okay.
in annual sales. And I think last year we just did a little over 75 million.
Wow. Congratulations.
I tell Brooke if she grows the company at the same rate I did, they'll be doing about 75 billion. So the
Big shoes.
Big shoes.
Yes.
But truly, if somebody had said 43 years ago, you will be doing this, will you have thought you were successful, or will you think you can do this? I would have said, I will. If I ever get close to that, I will think that I had shot the moon. But it just happens. It's organic. I think that, you need to set goals. You need to make a strategic plan for yourself and your company.
Yeah.
And if you do that and you're intentional about it, it happens, and it's organic. But a company is only as good as its people.
Absolutely.
Right? And so we just added one person at a time, and another person, and then another person. And then you bring on another skill level. And I tell people that truly in that office, there's not one job that I have not done, whether it's vacuuming or changing or making the coffee or cleaning the toilets or drawing the blueprints or project managing or superintending. But I also tell people there's not one job that I did as well as the people that we have, because we've got great talent and they do the job far better than I ever did.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a key, Bruce, is that you need to be secure in yourself to be able to hire people that are smarter than you are and let them do their work. And it's amazing. It's amazing what happens. I think if you we talked about Brooke had a business degree. I had a business degree.
Yeah.
So, but we find if you hire people that have an attitude and an aptitude, you can train them to do just about anything. Right?
I absolutely agree with you.
I'm the chairman of the holding board of Fairmount Memorial.
Okay.
And we have 7 cemeteries and 2 crematories and a funeral home. But the bottom line is it's still about serving people. Parts are parts. Business is business, and it's all made up of the same components, whether it's construction or whether it's funerals or whether it's I'm on the board at Modern Electric, whether it's selling electricity. It's all about your clients. Mm-hmm. It's all about servicing people. It's all about people.
So, and one thing that I'd love to get your perspective on is, so it sounds like really it comes down to, like you said, serving people, and on the business side of it, when you're scaling, building a great team and doing it slowly.
Yeah.
I imagine hiring slowly and firing quickly, I would assume.
Well, as soon as your gut tells you, and that's one of the hardest things
I can imagine
about business is firing somebody. But to that end, when you do hire somebody, if you give them a clear job description and what their expectations are, your expectations are, do you understand what this job role is? Because so many times somebody will fire somebody and you go, why are you firing me? Well,
that should never be the case.
Because you didn't do this. You didn't do this and this and this. And the guy goes, I didn't know I was supposed to do this and this and this. So as long as you give them a clear job description, what your expectations are, then you can meet with that person and say, this is not happening. Well, if you gave me a computer instead of an abacus, I could have done my job. Okay, I'll get you a computer. So you get them a computer. And then if they still don't do it, then you can sit down with them and say, we sat down and talked about this 60 days ago. It's clear that that's not happening. And they agree with you. Now let's go have a beer. Because it's not personal. You take the personal out of it when you have to let somebody go. But it is the hardest thing that a manager could ever do.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to look at it, though. I think that, it really makes it as easy as it can be, right? Yeah. It's still not going to be easy.
And we've had people come back, Bruce, and say, when you fired me, that was the best thing that ever happened. Because I wasn't right. I wasn't happy. It wasn't where I should have been. And I went and found this new opportunity, and I'm so happy, and I'm doing better than I ever thought I would.
That makes sense. Brooke, tell me a little bit, like your dad was talking about how there's not a job he hasn't done in the company. And you coming in, you talked about, wishing you had that construction management degree. And have you been out swinging hammers at all or any of that stuff?
Yeah.
You've got some background, I would
A
assume.
little bit. So my first job with Baker was doing a Rite Aid remodel on the South Hill.
Nice.
So I was 17 and my dad said, it was summertime and I needed some money for back to school clothes. And my dad said, hey, come to Baker at, I don't remember, 7:30 a.m. and, have you get going on some paperwork. So summer morning, I show up, I start doing paperwork and he's like, okay, great. Come back to my office tonight at 5 p.m. And I'm like, okay. That's weird. I thought I was going to be like making copies and coffee and doing some office work. Come back and he's like, he's like, by the way, put your hair in a ponytail, closed-toed shoes, come on back. And I'm like, oh, okay. So come back and sure enough, he's like, you're going to be doing this Rite Aid remodel. It's graveyard shift. You're going to do this for 3 weeks. And the hours were 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Wow.
So I did that and it was an amazing experience. And I'm so happy I did that and learned to appreciate the ins and outs of what these guys do and gals do every single day. And then when I came back to Baker about 8 years ago to actually be full-time employee, I spent a little bit of time in the field with the guys. Not nearly enough. Our superintendents are just amazing, amazing craftsmen, and the loyalty and the amount of hours of and blood, sweat, and tears that these guys truly breathe into these projects for our clients and for us, it's incredible. So I need to do more time with them. But I'm so fortunate because I've grown up with a ton of these guys too.
Around you, yeah.
And so I know that at the drop of a hat, I can call them and say, hey, can you help me understand, why structural is designed this way and why is this cross member sitting this way and I'm lucky that I have an amazing group of guys to help continue to coach me on the things that I do have shortcomings on.
Well, and I think that, obviously you've got a position that you're extremely good at. It's extremely valuable to the company. Like Barry was saying, you want to have a separation of duties and have people doing jobs that are obviously or ideally better than you are at that specific thing.
Yes.
But I guess what I was just getting to is, finding that balance between how much can you learn,
right,
jumping in where you're at and still fast tracking.
Right. Yep. I just think over time it's going to continue to get better. And
Absolutely.
I think that my problem is that I always want to run before I can crawl. So
that's not a bad thing though, right?
Yeah, it was extremely paralyzing at first to leave a corporate 50 job and to be the subject matter expert and to be the go-to for, over 250 people.
Wow.
And then and then come into something that you are absolutely passionate about and believe in, but not know very much on. So I'm proud of my growth so far, but I am very, very aware of my shortcomings. And again, I'm not afraid to ask for help, but I'm excited to continue to kind of identify those areas that I need to improve on and continue to grow within.
Well, that's exciting. Tell me a little bit about a project you're working on now that's exciting for you that you're having fun with.
Sure. Well, you and I briefly chatted about this when we walked in. We're really excited to be working with Dave Black and Chris Bell and James Black on the renovation of the James S. Black building.
Great building.
So we're renovating that right now and we're pretty darn close to being done. So we helped those guys convert the office levels into multifamily levels.
Wow.
And then a really beautiful renovation for the Wave, our favorite sushi place. So
it's great. And you've got the black room down in there and everything.
Oh, yeah. Wait till you see it. It's going to be cool.
I'm excited. So how complicated is it to take something like the James S. Black building that's currently office space and convert that into, is it more expensive than new construction? Do you run into a lot of issues that way?
So it's give and take, right? It's really hard to say that one is more expensive than the other, but the things that we run into that are challenging and will continue to be more challenging as we rehab second generation space are the new energy codes that we're going to continue to hit on.
Okay.
February 1st was when the brand new energy codes came in.
Right.
So Dave's project didn't actually hit those, but that's a challenge that we're going to continue to hit. And then the lack of existing building plans for some of these older buildings are a little bit tough. So a lot of times you're doing like x-rays on the buildings to kind of figure out the sections and figure out what we're dealing with. So we had to do like a lot of core drilling, for instance, in that building to run everything up to the roof. So you're doing however many per unit, and it adds up.
I think one of the other things, the biggest things that we've ran into, and we renovated the Rid Path.
Yes. Ron Wells
project, right?
Great guy.
And we also did the Cooper George up on the South Hill. And both those were very, very extensive renovations. And in these second and third generation buildings, one of the largest expenses can be hazardous materials, and that is asbestos. There's a lot of asbestos wrapped pipe. There's a lot of asbestos in the taping in the walls, in the flooring. So I know in the Rid Path in particular, it was almost $750,000 just to abate the asbestos. So anybody out there doing renovation, look out for hazardous materials, because
that's good to know.
It can be huge. It really can be huge, and it's an X factor.
Do you foresee a lot more, with COVID, and we won't get into the politics or anything with it, but getting into, with COVID and office space being shut down the way it is, do you see a lot more conversions from office space to multifamily with the housing shortage that we have, or is it just...
We're seeing a little bit of that, and of course, Dave's project is excuse me, a model of that.
Absolutely.
And people say, well, there's going to be this changing paradigm that office will never be the same. I know our accountants, Moss Adams, is changing all of their offices. Nobody's going to have their own office anymore. It's all going to be hoteling.
Oh, interesting.
So you check into an office and check out.
Yeah.
And so you'll never have the same office, twice, or you're not sure that you'll have the same office twice. But I think people there's a lot of people working out of their homes right now, and I think they miss that collaboration, that face-to-face.
Agreed.
Camaraderie.
Right.
That synergy.
You can't just walk next door and ask somebody, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? So I think that we will see people coming back into offices, but I still think people will want to work also from home a couple days a week or something like that.
Right. I think you're right. I think there's going to be a hybrid of that. And Bruce, we've been fortunate that with our business that 99% of our work is with private developers. So people like Dave.
Absolutely.
So we're fortunate that we've built a business based on these relationships and that we don't do a lot of public bidding and infrastructure work. And so if the Federal Reserve continues to keep interest rates low or lower, fingers crossed from the private sector, people will still feel bullish to go out and spend money.
That's a great point. And that's something I definitely want to hit on and get both your guys' opinions on. With the Fed printing money like they are and some of the crazy things going on, there's talk of losing reserve currency, there's talk of inflation, so many different things, and who knows exactly what's going to happen. But at least locally here in Spokane, the housing market is great right now. What do you guys see for the future? And maybe it is just working with some of these private developers and private investors. How do you insulate yourself as a construction company or as a developer going into the future to make sure that you're able to go into these dips in the market and come out stronger even?
Well, I think that, and I'm 43 years into this.
So you've got some experience.
I had an SBA loan when Jimmy Carter was president.
Wow.
And the prime rate went to 21%.
Oh my gosh.
And my loan was floating 2 3/4 over prime, so my interest rate went to 23 3/4.
So we can't even imagine.
Right?
That, right?
No,
So basically nobody was building anything, and we weren't building anything. And the bank called me and said, "Hey, why don't you just fold it up and go away while you still have some assets?" Well, for an entrepreneur, for a family business, that's not an option. Giving
Absolutely
up is not an option. But I did learn then that the thing that will kill you is debt. Right?
Agreed.
So you don't want too much debt. Pay as you go.
Yeah.
And because if you don't have debt, if your business goes away, and ours in 2008 and 2009 went from 43 million to 21 million in 1 year.
Wow.
So how do you survive that? Well, on any given day, if you don't have debt, you can lower your overhead by just letting people go.
Which is hard enough.
Which is very, very hard. But that on Friday, you give out pink slips and you can cut your overhead in half. If you have debt, it continues. Those payments still keep coming. So I tell people that, try and not have very much debt.
Right.
You know,
So, and that's, I think that's, I agree with you 100%. That's not the answer I was hoping for, but is there a magic bullet out there? Is there, does working with a specific type of investor, are there people, and this is what I've always thought is you see a turn in the market, prices go down now, maybe land and some of these buildings are a little less expensive. Guys are buying it up who have cash.
Right.
Are there relationships you have with people like that help? Or
and I think as the market turns and as it drops off, there's opportunities because people that have large buildings want to move to small buildings.
Absolutely.
So you can help them adapt.
Okay.
Right. And the flat line is you need to get on the phone and network, and instead of making 10 calls a day, you need to make 50 calls a day.
Yeah.
Somebody out there is going to do something.
And I think that's something that obviously you've been good at and you've instilled in me. But the other thing that I think you and the other guys have been good about too is not being afraid to try new industries. So for instance, we just completed the Blockhouse project. It's cross-laminated timber.
Beautiful project. I love that.
Thank you. In the Perry district. And our guys, Brian Valiant and Quinn Holt and Jimmy Bell in our office wrapped their arms around that and worked as a team to help Cody and Andy Barrett and those guys, Dave Combs, get that project across the finish line. It was fun and it was collaborative, but we had never worked with CLT before. So I think that to weather those storms, we continue to stay diversified, keep the debt low, and keep grooming those relationships while planting new seeds.
The important thing is to keep money in your company. Keep retained earnings, because a lot of guys, when they make a lot of money, they go buy a condo or a plane or a big boat, right?
Absolutely. So
you've got to keep money in your company. You got to save for the, proverbial save for that rainy day.
Of course.
And that was one of the things that I attribute our success to after the Great Recession of 08, 09 was we did downsize, but we kept our key personnel. Even when we didn't need that many people, we said, when the economy comes back, if we have this key group of folks, we're going to be able to take off. Mm-hmm. And we did. But the recession lasted longer. Most recessions last about 18 months. And that lasted about 3 years. But we made a conscious decision as business owners and managers to keep this key core group of people. Even when we didn't need them, we kept them. And when that came back, man, we were able to we built the brand was stronger. Mm-hmm. We were able to take off almost exponentially.
That's that's wonderful to hear. It's a little bit more multifaceted than it sounds like. So I know we're coming short on time, and I don't want to keep you guys too long, but I do want to get one more question. What do you see for the future of Spokane, the future of Baker, the role you guys play here? Tell me a little bit about it.
I think Spokane has so many great things going for it that I think that by the combined efforts of so many different groups, I think that we're going to continue to attract and retain young talent. I really do. We have a higher education offering that is second to none. And I think that just huge synergy that we have with Fairchild and continuing to incentivize tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers to Boeing to, for instance, settle in the West Plains and those surrounding areas. So I feel really excited about the future of Spokane.
Medical school.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
As for the future of Baker, I'm super excited about the team that we have, and we're going to continue to grow the company by focusing on really those values that we were built on honesty, integrity, doing business with a handshake, a healthy sense of humor, and not being so focused on volume, but being focused on intentional growth and focusing on margin and working with clients that value us. And, like my dad hit on earlier, we're fortunate right now because we're busy enough that we can have that sniper approach to our business. We're not having to be so selective, or we are able to be selective and not have to work with everybody that's calling us. It won't always be like that. It's not always going to be where we have, this influx of work. So just continuing to do business the old-fashioned way and just take care of our employees.
Great.
Yeah.
And Barry, let me ask you one more. Where do you see the opportunity in Spokane going forward? What type of investment, specific construction?
I relate this to World War II
Okay.
when there was a general that was completely surrounded by the enemy. And he said to his men, "Men, we now have the unique opportunity to attack in any direction." So Spokane is so uniquely positioned. We've been working on this. There, economic development, Greater Spokane Incorporated, the Valley Chamber. I mean, there's a handful of folks, in Spokane that have the best interest of Spokane. People say, well, these people sit up in this ivory tower. Well, there are no ivory towers in Spokane.
I agree with you.
There's people that care about Spokane.
Yep.
And Spokane is uniquely positioned because if you look at Seattle, you look at Portland, you look at LA, people don't want to live there. And the cost of living is so much higher in those markets that people can come to Spokane and enjoy a quality of life and have a nice house for $300,000, where if you're in this Silicon Valley, you can't buy a cracker box for $1 million. Right? So you can come to Spokane and you can we have 75 lakes within an hour of Spokane. We have mountains. We have, a bad traffic jam is
20 minutes.
20
on
minutes.
the grade curve.
A friend of mine said, he moved from Seattle. He says, "I hate this traffic." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, because I don't have time to shave and eat my cereal and read the paper."
And return
right?
texts.
Because I'm in work in 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
But we got to be careful that we preserve our quality of life.
I think a lot of people take that for granted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you got to be careful what you ask for, because people will be coming to Spokane. We're seeing that with Amazon. We're seeing that with other what we call logoed companies, Caterpillar, BF Goodrich. Some of those companies are coming to Spokane. They're realizing how good it is, how inexpensive it is, the quality of our workforce. It's an amazing place. We love it here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, I hate to have to cut it off. I know you guys have to get going. I really appreciate
Thanks,
you guys
Brooke.
coming. We'll have to do a part 2
Yeah,
for
let's
sure.
do it.
I'd love
So
to.
thank
Yeah.
you so much, guys.
Thanks.
That's episode 7 of the Catalyst Podcast. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you back here in a couple weeks.